Taman Park stood in the center of the Great Hall on Nexus Prime. Around him, thousands of alien beings filled the massive chamber. Their voices created a low buzzing sound that made his ears hurt. Today was the day the galaxy would decide humanity's fate. The Galactic Council had called this meeting after months of complaints. Every day, more species came forward with the same message. Humans were too dangerous. Humans moved too fast. Humans asked too many questions and broke too many rules. Taman wore his best diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric felt heavy on his shoulders. He had served as Earth's ambassador for 10 years. In all that time, he had never seen the alien so angry. Behind him sat So Young Kim, Earth's military representative. Her face showed no emotion, but Taman could see her hands moving. She was writing notes on her tablet, always planning, always thinking 3 steps ahead. On his other side, Jae-Ho Lee adjusted his glasses nervously. The chief scientist had brought data files and research reports. He still believed facts and logic could change alien minds. Taman knew better. The council speaker, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, called for silence. The buzzing stopped. 847 species had sent representatives. This was the largest gathering in galactic history. "We are here to vote on Resolution 2847, the speaker announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. The complete removal of humanity from all galactic activities. Taman felt his stomach drop. He had known this was coming, but hearing the words made it real. The first species to speak was the Vorthan Collective. Their representative stood on 6 legs, his mouth clicking as he talked. "Humans have expanded too quickly," he said. "In 50 years, they have claimed more territory than most species claim in 500. Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. Next came the Xelian Trade Union, human merchants. "Ignore our pricing agreements," their speaker complained. "They make deals that hurt our profits. They care nothing for tradition." More voices joined in support. The Cosmic Banking Federation was even harsher. "Humans refuse to follow financial regulations. They create new ways to trade that we cannot control. They are a threat to economic stability." One by one, the accusations piled up. Humans were too creative in warfare. They formed friendships with species that should be enemies. They asked questions about things that should remain secret. They refused to accept that some knowledge was forbidden. Taman listened to every word. Each complaint was technically true. Humans did expand quickly. They did ignore rules they thought were stupid. They did make friends with anyone who would talk to them, but the aliens made it sound like crimes. When his turn came to speak, Taman walked to the center platform. His footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. All those eyes watching him, all those minds already made up, "Honored beings," he began. "Humanity has always tried to be a good neighbor. Yes, we expand quickly. Yes, we ask many questions. This is because we are young and eager to learn." Hissing sounds came from several sections. The aliens did not want to hear explanations. "We have never attacked without cause," Taman continued. "We have never broken a treaty. We have shared our technology and knowledge freely. We ask only for the same respect you show each other." But he could see it was hopeless. The decision had been made before the meeting started. This was just a show. The voting began immediately after his speech. No debate, no discussion. Just a simple yes or no on humanity's exile. The results appeared on screens throughout the chamber. 834 species voted yes. Only 13 voted no. The rest abstained, which meant they would not help but also would not directly support the exile. Even humanity's closest allies had abandoned them. Taman felt So Young's hand touch his arm. She leaned close and whispered, "Phase 1 is complete." He almost smiled. While he had been playing diplomat, So Young had been playing a different game entirely. For months, her people had been making preparations. Just in case this day came, the speaker handed Taman an official document. The Exile Decree. Humanity had 6 standard galactic months to remove all ships, stations, and settlements from galactic space. Any humans found outside their home system after the deadline would be considered criminals. Taman read the document carefully. Then he looked up at the thousands of alien faces staring down at him. Some looked satisfied. Others seemed uncomfortable. A few actually looked sad. "I understand," Taman said clearly. "Earth accepts this decision. We will comply immediately." The word "immediately" caused some confusion. Several aliens exchanged glances. They had expected arguments, protests, maybe even threats. but Taemin sounded almost pleased. So Young was already packing her materials. Jae-ho gathered his data files with shaking hands. They walked toward the exit together, their footsteps the only sound in the silent chamber. At the doorway, Taemin turned back one last time. "Thank you," he said. "This decision will teach humanity exactly what we need to know about our place in the galaxy." As they left Nexus Prime, So Young activated a small device on her belt. Across the galaxy, every human ship and station received the same coded message. Operation Exodus was now active. The aliens had voted to exile Earth. They thought they were getting rid of a problem. But Taemin knew something they did not. Humanity had been preparing for this possibility since the day they first left their solar system. The galaxy wanted them gone, fine. They would be gone, but they would leave on their own terms. The transport ship that carried the human delegation away from Nexus Prime was the last official human vessel to operate in galactic space. Behind them, the aliens celebrated their victory. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. Bo-Ram Choi watched the status board in her command center. Green lights turned red as human outposts across the galaxy began shutting down. Each light represented months or years of human work. Homes, businesses, research stations, mining operations, all being abandoned but not destroyed. That was the key difference. "Admiral," her communications officer called out. "New Terra Colony reports evacuation complete. They're requesting permission to activate Protocol 7. Bo-Ram smiled. "Permission granted. Tell them to take everything that isn't nailed down. And if it is nailed down, take the nails too." The officer grinned and relayed the message. 6 weeks had passed since the vote on Nexus Prime. The aliens had expected humanity to take the full 6 months to leave. They were wrong about many things, but that was their biggest mistake. Humans did not wait when they had work to do. Woo Jin Han entered the command center carrying a thick folder. As head of human intelligence, he knew secrets that would shock the galaxy. His network of agents had spent decades gathering information, and now it was time to use it. "Admiral, the last of our deep cover agents are reporting in," he said. "Operation Magpie was more successful than we hoped." Bo-Ram took the folder and flipped through the pages. Technical specifications, military deployment schedules, economic data, trade route information, even personal details about alien leaders. "How much did we get?" she asked. "Everything," Woo Jin replied. "Our people had access to restricted databases for years. The aliens never suspected that their human friends were copying their files." On the main screen, a new report appeared. The human colony on Kepler 442b was ready to move. But this was not a normal evacuation. The colonists had spent months preparing for this day. Aira Song, the colony's chief engineer, appeared on the communication channel. Her face was covered in dirt and grease, but she looked excited. "Admiral, we've finished packing the antimatter facility," she reported. "All equipment is loaded and ready for transport. The aliens will find nothing but empty buildings." "What about the hidden installations?" Bo-Ram asked. Ira's smile grew wider. "Those are still functional. Anyone who tries to use our old facilities will get some interesting surprises." Bo-Ram nodded. Humanity was leaving gifts behind. Special presents for their former neighbors. Most were harmless pranks that would activate in a few months. But some were more serious. Any alien military force that tried to occupy abandoned human bases would face automated defense systems that did not recognize galactic surrender codes. Dae-Yun Oh stood at a trading post near the galactic core. Around her, alien merchants watched nervously as human ships loaded cargo containers. She had spent the morning buying massive quantities of rare metals and exotic materials. "Why do humans need so much deuterium?" asked a Xelian trader. "Your species uses fusion power. This amount could fuel 1,000 ships." Dae-Yun shrugged. "We like to have supplies ready. You never know when you might need them." What she did not mention was that the deuterium was not for fusion reactors. Combined with the other materials she was buying, it would create something far more dangerous. The aliens would not understand the significance until it was too late. Back on the command ship, Bo-Ram received updates from across the galaxy. Humanity was not just leaving. They were vanishing with precision that amazed even their own commanders. Mining operations in the Outer Rim had extracted every valuable mineral from their claims. When they left, the mines were empty shells, but the processing equipment, the refined materials, and all the extracted wealth went with them. Research stations throughout galactic space had been conducting experiments for decades. The aliens thought they knew what humanity was studying. They were wrong. Many of the most important projects had been hidden in plain sight. Dr. Young Ho Kang had run what appeared to be a simple materials research lab. For 10 years, aliens had seen him testing metal alloys and ceramic compounds, boring work that no one paid attention to. But Dr. Kang had actually been developing armor materials that could stop any weapon in the galactic arsenal. His boring research had produced breakthroughs that would revolutionize warfare. Now his lab was empty. The equipment was gone. Even the molecular scanners had been carefully removed. The aliens would find nothing useful when they took over the facility. Similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. Human agricultural specialists had developed new food crops that could grow in extreme conditions. Gone. Human medical researchers had found cures for diseases that plagued multiple species. Gone. Human engineers had designed more efficient power systems and faster communication networks. All gone. But the biggest surprise was still coming. Commander Seok Jin Lim stood on the bridge of the survey ship Pathfinder. For 5 years, his crew had been mapping star systems beyond the galactic edge. Everyone assumed they were looking for new colony sites. The truth was much more interesting. "Captain," his science officer reported, "long-range sensors confirm our readings. The target system has 7 habitable worlds and abundant resources. No signs of intelligent life," Seok-jin nodded. This was the 43rd such system they had found. For years, human survey teams had been secretly exploring regions of space that other species considered empty or worthless. While the galaxy focused on the crowded core systems, humanity had been quietly claiming territory in the dark. The Pathfinder was not alone. 50 other survey ships had been doing the same work, mapping systems, placing markers, building the foundation for humanity's new empire, an empire the aliens knew nothing about. As the evacuation continued, alien governments began to relax. The human problem was solving itself. Trade routes that had been disrupted by human competition were returning to normal. Diplomatic protocols were running smoothly, without human representatives asking awkward questions. Some alien leaders were already discussing how to divide up the territories humanity was abandoning. They did not notice that human departure routes avoided all major sensor networks. They did not realize that several abandoned human facilities were actually elaborate monitoring stations. They did not understand that humanity's cooperative withdrawal was the most complex intelligence operation in galactic history. On the command ship, Boram watched the final transports leave the last human settlement. The evacuation was complete. Every human civilian, every piece of equipment, every scrap of useful technology had been removed from galactic space. "All units report ready for Phase 2, her operations officer announced. Boram looked at the tactical display. It showed the real scope of human presence in the galaxy, not just the obvious colonies and trade posts that aliens knew about, but also the hidden bases, the secret research facilities, the surveillance networks that had been watching alien activities for decades. All of it was now offline, or appeared to be. "Send the message," Boram ordered. Across the galaxy, every human agent received the same signal. Operation Exodus was complete. Operation Ghost Ship was now beginning. The aliens thought humanity was gone. They were about to learn the difference between leaving and disappearing. In her private quarters, Boram opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Admiral So-young Kim appeared on the screen. "How did they react to our departure?" Kim asked. "Exactly as predicted," Boram replied. "Relief, celebration, and immediate planning to claim our former territories. Good. That will keep them distracted while we prepare for Phase 3. What about the timeline?" Kim smiled, but there was no warmth in her expression. "The aliens gave us 6 months to leave. We finished in 6 weeks. I think it's time to show them what humans can accomplish when we really put our minds to something." 3 years had passed since humanity disappeared from galactic space. The aliens called this period the Peaceful Era. Trade flowed smoothly along established routes. Diplomatic meetings ended without arguments. No one asked uncomfortable questions or proposed radical changes to ancient traditions. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. Hyun Woo Nam studied the reports on his desk with growing concern. As Director of External Operations for the Terran Confederation, he monitored the galaxy through a network that the aliens did not know existed. His office was located on New Geneva, the administrative capital of humanity's hidden empire. Outside his windows, he could see bustling cities and orbital platforms that rivaled anything in the old galaxy. But his attention was focused on the problems developing in the space they had left behind. "Sir," his aide entered carrying another stack of files. The latest intelligence reports from the Centauri network. Hyunwoo took the files and began reading. Each report painted the same picture. Without human innovation and problem-solving, the galaxy was slowly stagnating. The Vorthan Collective had been struggling with a plague that attacked their food crops. For 2 years, they had tried traditional solutions. Nothing worked. Before the Exile, they would have asked human agricultural specialists for help. Now their people were rationing food, while their scientists repeated the same failed experiments. The Xelian trade union was facing similar problems. Their main shipping routes were being attacked by pirates using outdated weapons and predictable tactics. Galactic security forces could not catch them, because they kept using the same defensive strategies that had failed for decades. They needed someone to think differently about the problem. That someone used to be human military advisors. Even the Galactic Council was struggling. Without human diplomats to propose creative solutions, their meetings had become endless debates about minor issues. Several disputes that could have been resolved quickly were now dragging on for months. Young Suk-jang knocked on Hyunwoo's door and entered without waiting for permission. As leader of the Colonial Development Authority, she had spent the last 3 years overseeing humanity's expansion into the dark regions beyond galactic space. "The Kepler sector colonies are ahead of schedule," she reported. "We now have 47 settled worlds and 16 major industrial centers. Population has reached 12 million and growing." Hyunwoo nodded. "What about the advanced projects?" "Orbital shipyards are operational. We're producing vessels that use technology combinations the galaxy has never seen. Dr. Minseo Park's team has successfully integrated Vorthon energy systems with Xelian, navigation computers, and human weapons technology. And they work together?" Young Suk smiled. "Better than the original designers ever imagined. It turns out that humans are very good at making incompatible technologies work as a team. This was the secret advantage that aliens had never understood. Humans did not just copy technology. They improved it. They combined it with other systems in ways that the original creators never considered. They found possibilities that existed only in the spaces between different ways of thinking." A communication alert interrupted their conversation. The message was marked with the highest priority codes. "Long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures from the galactic core," the report stated. "Signatures match no known technology in our databases. Estimated power output exceeds standard dreadnought class by factor of 50. Hyunwoo frowned. "Where exactly?" "Nexus Prime System," Young Suk read from her tablet. "The aliens are building something big." But that was not the most interesting news. Over the next few days, reports arrived from human agents still operating in galactic space. These agents were not spies in the traditional sense. They were humans who had married aliens, started businesses, or simply chosen to stay behind when the official evacuation happened. The aliens did not consider them a threat. This was another mistake. Jin Woo-seo ran a small restaurant on a trading station near the galactic rim. His customers were mostly alien merchants and freight haulers. They talked freely around him because they assumed a human cook was harmless. From their conversations, he learned about shipping delays, supply shortages, and technical problems that were spreading throughout the galaxy. But he also heard something more interesting. Several alien species were quietly asking about hiring human consultants. Not officially, of course. The Exile decree forbade such contacts, but there were hints and suggestions that the right human expert might find profitable work in neutral space. Some aliens were beginning to realize what they had lost. Dr. Haiwan worked at a research facility on the Xelian homeworld. Officially, she was a maintenance technician. In reality, she held advanced degrees in xenobiology and quantum physics. Her alien colleagues had no idea how qualified she actually was. She watched them struggle with experiments that she could have solved in weeks. Their research methods were careful and thorough, but they lacked the creative leaps that made breakthrough discoveries possible. They could improve existing technology incrementally, but they could not imagine entirely new approaches. Without humans to inspire them, alien science was becoming predictable. The most concerning reports came from the galactic defense networks. Commander Il Sung-yoon had spent 2 years infiltrating alien military communications. What he discovered worried the Terran leadership. The galaxy's armed forces were impressive in size and equipment, but their tactics had not evolved in decades. They relied on standard formations, predictable strategies, and overwhelming firepower to win battles. This worked fine against enemies who fought the same way. But it left them vulnerable to anyone who approached warfare differently. They're preparing for the wrong kind of fight, Il-sung reported to Hyun-woo. Their training simulations all assume they'll face conventional threats using conventional tactics. What happens if they face something unconventional? Hyun-woo asked. They lose. Badly. Young-suk was studying the latest colony reports when an urgent message arrived from the Deep Survey Division. Captain Sang-ho Lim's exploration fleet had discovered something that changed everything. Director, the message began. Long-range sensors have detected artificial structures in the void region, beyond the galactic edge. Structures that do not match any known architectural patterns. We are maintaining surveillance from maximum range, but initial analysis suggests massive-scale construction projects. The void region was the empty space between galaxies. Nothing was supposed to exist there except scattered gas clouds and rogue planets. But something was building installations in the darkness. Something that neither humans nor any known alien species had put there. Hyun-woo called an emergency meeting of the Terran Council. Within hours, representatives from every major human settlement had gathered via secure communication channels. We have a problem, he announced. Or rather, the galaxy has a problem. And eventually that might become our problem too. He shared the reports from Deep Survey. Unknown entities were constructing facilities in deep space. The energy signatures suggested technology that surpassed anything in human or alien databases. President Yoon-ji Choi studied the data from her office on New Earth. How long have they been building? We don't know, Hyun-woo admitted. Our deep space sensors only detected them because they're getting bigger. Much bigger. Defense Minister Dong-hyun Kim leaned forward in his chair. Are they aware of us? Or the galaxy? Unknown. But if they're expanding their infrastructure, they might be preparing for something. The meeting continued for hours. Every option was discussed. Every possibility was considered. But the conclusion was inevitable. Whatever was building structures in the void, it represented a potential threat to all intelligent life in the local galactic cluster. That included humanity's new territories. We need more information, President Choi decided. But we also need to consider our response if this becomes a direct threat. Young-suk raised an important question. Do we warn the galaxy? The room fell silent. Humanity had been exiled. The aliens had made it clear that they did not want human involvement in galactic affairs. But they also had no idea that something dangerous might be approaching. From the darkness between stars, Hyun-woo looked at the energy signatures on his display. Whatever was out there, it was big enough to threaten entire solar systems. The aliens' conventional military forces would be useless against technology they could not understand. They would need creative solutions. Innovative tactics, the kind of adaptability that came from thinking outside established patterns. They would need human help, whether they wanted it or not. The first attack came without warning. The Xelian border station at Proxima Gate simply stopped transmitting. One moment, the automated beacon was sending routine traffic reports. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space where a thriving trade hub had existed for 3 centuries. Counselor Vexihara received the news in his office on Nexus Prime. As the primary architect of humanity's exile, he had spent 3 years enjoying the peaceful galaxy that Decision had created. The disappearance of Proxima Gate ended that peace forever. What do our long-range sensors show? He asked his military aide. Nothing, sir. No debris field. No energy signatures. No trace that a station was ever there. Vexhera's forearms trembled slightly. In all his years of galactic politics, he had never heard of a weapon that could completely erase a space station without leaving evidence. Send a reconnaissance fleet to investigate, he ordered. The reconnaissance fleet never returned. Within days, similar disappearances were reported across the galactic rim. Mining stations, research outposts, and small colonies were vanishing without explanation. The attacks seemed random, but intelligence analysts began to notice a pattern. The targets were all facilities that conducted deep space scanning or maintained long-range communication arrays. Someone or something was systematically eliminating the galaxy's ability to see into the dark regions beyond the established borders. Admiral Kektor of the Galactic Defense Force studied the tactical reports with growing frustration. His species, the Hrothak, were known for their military expertise. But this enemy fought in ways that made no sense. They appear from nowhere, he reported to the emergency council session. Our sensors detect no approach vectors, no engine signatures, no communication attempts. They simply arrive, eliminate their target, and vanish. What kind of weapons are they using? Asked Counselor Zephron of the Vorthon Collective. Unknown. Our surviving ships report seeing geometric patterns of light that seem to bend space around the targets. When the light fades, the targets are gone. The council chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Several species had legends about ancient enemies that used such weapons, but most had dismissed them as myths. The chatter stopped when the first major world went dark. New Vorthon was the industrial planet with 40 million inhabitants. It was also the location of the galaxy's most advanced sensor array, capable of detecting ships at ranges of several light years. The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, the planet's surface had been stripped clean. Not destroyed, not burned, simply removed, leaving behind a barren rock core. The attackers had taken everything: atmosphere, oceans, continents, cities, and every living being on the surface. 40 million people had vanished without a trace. This time they left a message. The signal broadcast on all frequencies was simple and terrifying. Your expansion ends here. Return to your core systems or face extinction. But the message was not in any galactic language. It was in mathematical symbols that required advanced computers to translate. The entities responsible had technology that surpassed galactic science by centuries or millennia. In the Kepler sector, President Yoon-ji Choi convened an emergency meeting of the Terran Council. The conference room was filled with the best military and scientific minds humanity had produced. The Void Swarm has revealed itself, announced Defense Minister Dong-Hyun Kim. Our deep space monitors confirm that the attacking forces originated from the construction sites we detected last year. How many ships are we dealing with? Asked Admiral Min Ho-yoon. That's the problem. We're not detecting ships at all. The energy signatures suggest something more like mobile space stations or artificial planetoids. Dr. Kyung-Soo Lee, the Terran Confederation's chief strategist, activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red markers indicated the locations of Void Swarm attacks. They're not random, he explained. Every target was a sensor station or communication hub with deep space monitoring capabilities. They're blinding the galaxy before launching a major offensive. How long until they reach our territory? President Choi asked. If they continue their current expansion pattern, approximately 8 months, but that assumes they maintain their current rate of advance. Admiral Yoon studied the tactical projections. What are our options? The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it aloud. Finally, Foreign Affairs Director Sun-hee Park spoke up. We could contact the Galactic Council, offer assistance. Defense Minister Kim shook his head. They exiled us, made it clear that they didn't want human involvement in galactic affairs. That was before an extinction-level threat emerged from deep space, Sun-hee replied. The exile decree specifically stated that humans were a danger to galactic stability. Now there's a bigger danger. You think they'll welcome us back? Asked Dr. Lee. I think they're desperate enough to accept help from anyone. President Choi considered the options carefully. Humanity had spent 3 years building an independent civilization beyond the galaxy's borders. They owed their former neighbors nothing, but the Void Swarm would not stop at galactic boundaries. Eventually, they would come for humanity's new worlds too. What kind of assistance could we offer? She asked Admiral Yoon. Yoon activated his tactical display. Our shipyards have been producing vessels that combine the best technology from multiple species. We have weapons systems that the galaxy has never seen, and most importantly, we have tactical flexibility. Explain. The aliens fight using predictable formations and standard strategies. The Void Swarm is countering those tactics perfectly. But humans approach warfare differently. We adapt, we improvise. We find solutions that don't exist in any manual. Dr. Lee nodded. Our intelligence reports suggest that every Galactic Defense Force engagement has followed the same pattern. Standard approach, standard tactics, complete defeat. They need someone who thinks outside their established patterns, Admiral Yoon continued. Someone who can develop new strategies in real time during combat. President Choi made her decision. Prepare a message for the Galactic Council. Offer humanitarian assistance and tactical consultation. What if they refuse? Asked Defense Minister Kim. Then we prepare to defend our own territory, but we make the offer. The message was transmitted using a communication array that the aliens had assumed was dismantled 3 years ago. In reality, humanity had left several such installations active but hidden. The response came within hours. Counselor Vexahara himself appeared on the communication channel. His forearms were shaking, and his usual composed demeanor had been replaced by obvious fear. President Choi, he began, the Galactic Council appreciates your offer of assistance. The pause before appreciates spoke volumes. Vexahara was clearly struggling with the idea of asking for help from the species he had exiled. We are prepared to provide immediate tactical support, President Choi replied. But there are conditions. What conditions? Human forces operate under human command. We coordinate with galactic forces, but we don't take orders from them. And when this crisis is over, we return to our own territory. This is temporary assistance, not a request to rejoin galactic civilization. Vexahara's expression showed relief and disappointment at the same time. Relief that humanity was willing to help, disappointment that they were not asking to come home. Agreed, he said quickly. How soon can you deploy forces? President Choi looked at Admiral Yoon, who was already reviewing deployment schedules. 48 hours, the Admiral replied. We have a rapid response fleet standing by. After the communication ended, Defense Minister Kim asked the question everyone was thinking. Are we sure about this? We could stay hidden in the Kepler sector. Let the galaxy handle its own problems. President Choi walked to the window and looked out at the bustling cities of New Geneva. 3 years ago, this had been an empty world. Now it was home to millions of humans who had built something new and independent. The Void Swarm won't stop with the galaxy, she said. Eventually they'll come for us too. Better to fight them while we have allies, even reluctant ones. And if the aliens try to control us after the crisis is over? Asked Sun-hee. President Choi smiled, but there was no warmth in her expression. Then they'll discover what humanity has become during our exile. We're not the same species that left galactic space 3 years ago. Admiral Yoon was already preparing deployment orders for Battle Group Prometheus, the most advanced fleet in human space. The Void Swarm had made a critical error in their tactical planning. They had studied galactic military capabilities and developed perfect counters for conventional strategies, but they had never encountered humans at war. That was about to change. The message broadcast across all galactic emergency frequencies at exactly 800 standard time. Every alien government, military commander, and civilian leader heard, the same calm voice speaking perfect. Galactic Common. This is Admiral Sora Bay of the Terran, Confederation Expeditionary Force. We are entering galactic space to provide assistance against the Void Swarm threat. All galactic military units are ordered to stand down and allow our forces to engage the enemy. The word ordered caused immediate controversy. Humans were supposed to be asking for permission to help, not giving commands to alien forces. But Admiral Bay was not finished. The Terran Confederation has analyzed Void Swarm tactics and capabilities. Your current defensive strategies have a 0% success rate. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleets to minimum safe distance. Any units that interfere with our operations will be considered hostile. On Nexus Prime, Counselor Vexahara stared at his communication screen in shock. The humans were not offering to help. They were taking control. This is not what we agreed to, he said to his aide. Sir, should we refuse their assistance? Vexahara looked at the tactical display showing Void Swarm forces advancing toward the galactic core. In 3 days they would reach the Vorthan home system with its 6 billion inhabitants. No, he said quietly. We need them. Admiral Bay stood on the bridge of the TCS Indomitable, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Around her, the command crew prepared for humanity's first major military engagement since the Exile. But this was not the same human fleet that had left galactic space 3 years ago. Captain Ji-hoon, you commanded a squadron of ships that could phase between dimensions, allowing them to appear anywhere in a star system without traveling through normal space. His vessels looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen, with hulls that seemed to bend light around them. Commander Hyojin Park's engineering teams had spent years combining alien technologies in ways their creators never imagined. Human ships now carried fourth-hand energy weapons powered by Xelian fusion, cores and protected by armor that incorporated defensive technologies. From a dozen different species, the result was a fleet that surpassed anything in galactic space. All units report ready, announced. The tactical officer to Admiral Bay nodded. Begin Operation Redemption. The first engagement took place in the Kepler 442 system, where a void swarm force was attacking a major research facility. Galactic defense ships had already been destroyed or forced to retreat. Captain Yu's squadron arrived using tactics that no galactic military manual described. Instead of approaching in formation, the human ships materialized at random points around the enemy force. Instead of opening fire immediately, they began moving in patterns that seemed chaotic but were actually carefully coordinated. The Void Swarm entities responded the way they had to every previous engagement. They formed geometric attack formations and began charging their space-bending weapons. The weapons fired at empty space. The human ships were no longer where the targeting systems predicted they would be. Ji-hoon watched the enemy formations adjust to track his ships. The swarm entities were learning and adapting, just as intelligence reports had suggested. But they were learning to counter tactics that humans were no longer using. All units, initiate pattern Delta, he commanded. The human ships suddenly stopped their chaotic movement and formed a perfect sphere around the largest swarm entity. But this was not a conventional attack formation. It was something that existed only in human tactical doctrine. Every ship fired simultaneously, but not at the enemy. They fired at specific points in space that created a network of intersecting energy beams. The beams formed a geometric pattern that trapped the swarm entity in a cage of pure force. The entity tried to use its space-bending weapon to escape. Instead, the weapon's energy was absorbed by the force cage and redirected back at the entity itself. For the first time in the war, a void swarm unit was destroyed. The remaining swarm entities immediately changed tactics, but the humans were already 3 steps ahead. Captain Yu's ships shifted to a completely different attack pattern that exploited weaknesses the enemy had not yet discovered. Within 30 minutes, the entire swarm force was eliminated. Similar scenes played out across the galactic rim as human forces engaged the enemy using strategies that defied conventional military thinking. The Void Swarm had spent months learning to counter galactic tactics. They had no experience with human creativity. Admiral Chang Min-oh commanded Battle Group Terra, the largest human fleet deployment in history. His mission was to locate and destroy the main swarm, staging areas in the void region beyond the galaxy. What? His forces discovered they're shocked. Even human intelligence analysts, Admiral, reported his science officer. Long-range scans show artificial structures the size of small moons. Energy output suggests they're manufacturing facilities. Chang Min studied the tactical display. The swarm had not just been building weapons. They had been constructing an entire industrial base in the empty space between galaxies. How many structures are we detecting? Over 300 confirmed. Possibly more beyond sensor range. Chang Min realized that the galaxy had been facing not just an invasion, but a complete replacement. The Void Swarm intended to eliminate all existing civilizations and terraform the local galactic cluster for their own use. All units, prepare for deep strike operations. We're going to destroy their manufacturing capability. The battle that followed redefined warfare on a galactic scale. Human ships used FTL microjumps to appear inside the swarm defensive perimeters. They deployed weapons that manipulated time streams to age enemy structures into dust within seconds. They used dimensional phase technology to make their own ships temporarily invulnerable while maintaining full offensive capability. But the most devastating human tactic was something no alien species had ever conceived. Commander Seung-ho Kim led the Terran Special Operations Division in an attack that targeted not the swarm entities themselves, but their technology. Human computer specialists had developed viruses that could infect alien systems and rewrite their operational protocols. When these viruses were introduced into the swarm network, something unprecedented happened. The enemy's own weapons turned against them. Manufacturing facilities began producing defective equipment. Command systems started issuing contradictory orders. Navigation computers guided ships into collision courses. The Void Swarm's technological superiority became their weakness, when humans turned it against them. Within hours, the entire swarm infrastructure in the Void region was collapsing. Entities that had existed for millennia were destroyed by their own malfunctioning equipment. As the last swarm mothership was eliminated, Admiral Bay transmitted a message to every government in the galaxy. This is Admiral Bay. The Void Swarm threat has been neutralized. All swarm forces in galactic space have been destroyed. Their manufacturing facilities beyond the galactic rim have been eliminated. Your space is secure, but she was not finished. The Terran Confederation is now providing you with complete technical specifications for detecting and defending against similar threats. These specifications are freely given to all galactic civilizations. On Nexus Prime, Counselor Vexahara read the technical data with amazement. The humans were sharing defensive technologies that would protect the galaxy for centuries to come, technologies that they could have kept secret to maintain military superiority. Why are they giving this away? He asked his science advisor. Unknown, sir. The defensive systems described here are far more advanced than anything in our databases. The final message came from President Yoon-ji Choi herself, transmitted from the Terran capital of New Geneva. To the governments and peoples of the galaxy, she began. 3 years ago, you voted to exile humanity from galactic civilization. You cited our unpredictability, our rapid expansion, and our refusal to follow established protocols as reasons why we were dangerous to galactic stability. Vexahara felt his forearms beginning to tremble. Today, those same qualities allowed us to save your civilizations from extinction. We do not mention this to demand gratitude or recognition. We mention it to make a point about the nature of progress and survival. The president paused, letting her words sink in. The Terran Confederation thanks the Galactic Council for their decision 3 years ago. By forcing us to stand alone, you taught us to become something greater than we ever could have been as your junior partners. We are no longer interested in joining your civilization. We are building our own. The galaxy is vast enough for both our paths. Choose yours wisely. The transmission ended. Within hours, human fleets were departing galactic space, returning to the territories they had claimed beyond the rim. But they left behind gifts. Defensive platforms that would protect major trade routes. Monitoring stations that would provide early warning of future threats. Medical supplies for worlds damaged by swarm attacks. Most importantly, they left behind the knowledge that there was another way to exist among the stars. A way that did not require ancient bureaucracies or rigid traditions. 10 years later, the Terran Confederation had become a mysterious power that occasionally aided galactic crises, but maintained strict independence. Young humans born in the Confederation considered the old galaxy not as former home.